The University of Johannesburg, the future reimagined.
Good afternoon, professors. Welcome to the Professors Forum, the second one for the year and your last one for the year. It's fantastic to have all of our senior academics here today, and we're looking forward to the guest speaker as well. It's my pleasure to also welcome all of our online colleagues. It's all of our visiting scholars from abroad. We've got 11 of them that is linking in with us, and we will also take their questions and answers to the guest speaker afterwards. I would like to introduce you all to our Executive Dean, Prof. Lungile Nsaladze. Prof, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Ronel, and good afternoon, colleagues who are with us here in South Africa. I'm not sure what time of day is you are in the rest of the world, but I would like to offer our special greetings to our colleagues who are joining this event virtually. Yes, indeed, this is our second installment, and as already mentioned, our last gathering of this nature for the year. It is always great to have the opportunity to meet senior staff members of the College of Business and Economics, because I believe that we are co-leading the college. The inputs, the participation that come from you makes us better, and we want to appreciate that. A professor has got many roles in a university. I see the role as someone who assists or is playing a major role in supporting and maintaining the university's national and international reputation. We face a number of challenges in the higher education sector in South Africa. There's a bit of instability in some institutions that we read about in the newspapers, but UJ has remained stable. There are reports about NFSAS and the things they want to implement, students not being happy with those, and that is also happening at the time where there is an investigation, which will remain hopeful that it will not significantly impact us in the sense of our enrollment numbers. There are visa issues, home affairs related issues that affect both our students and staff. But I'm happy that even in the presence of those challenges, we are able to continue with the academic project, and any success that the college is able to achieve, it is through your unwavering support. Yesterday, across the world, we were celebrating Nelson Mandela Day, celebrating and participating in community engagement projects, dedicating 67 minutes, which is the number that is linked to the years he dedicated to public service. In his words, I quote, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." Close quote. Colleagues, the university and indeed our college continues to be involved in projects, working with different community-based organizations to address a number of issues, hunger-related issues, clothing, to improve literacy, books that are being collected, and many others. And the enthusiasm that I see exactly aligns with the GES 4.0 for societal impact strategy of the university. GES standing for Global Excellence and Stature 4.0 to emphasize on the use of technology for societal impact. And it is not long ago that the Times Higher Education released its impact rankings, where the University of Johannesburg was ranked first in Africa and in South Africa. And I want to emphasize the first SDG of no poverty as one area that the university has been able to beat all other competitors, if I may say. So we are ranked number 1 globally on that particular SDG. And the university has claimed 6th place in the Decent Work and Economic Growth SDG. That is SDG number 8. It is gratifying, colleagues, to see that the university is being recognized for the work that it's doing to contribute to sustainability and development. It is in this strategic focus of the university that also as the college we found our purpose, dedicated in improving the world through education, research, and innovation. Just to mention a few things coming out of our 2022 report, for teaching and learning colleagues, out of over 18,000 students that we've enrolled, we were able to graduate 4,430 students, including 44 doctoral graduates and 180 master's graduates. The observation we are making regarding postgraduate enrollment is that we're not getting the numbers that we want, and this could be related to the economic situation in the country, where students now have to make a choice whether to continue their studies or look for job opportunities. And if they want to do both, there's a fear that they may not be able to cope. So that's something that we are looking at how to resolve. An area of concern is our module success rates, and I'm happy that different schools and departments have put interventions in place. We await the final mid-year assessments, including supplementaries, to do a proper assessment of how those interventions have shaped the assessments that we've just had. In terms of research, also it was announced by the Department of Higher Education and Training that the university has become the largest contributor of accredited research output in the South African higher education sector. And CBE, our college, makes a huge contribution towards this. We have a growing number of NRF-rated researchers. NRF is our National Research Foundation that recognizes colleagues who continue to produce impactful research and are productive in the production of knowledge in their disciplines. We reported 37 NRF-rated researchers for 2022 academic year. The interim number is sitting at 47 for 2023, which is a huge growth, and we continue to expect this number to grow. We, like other institutions, other environments, the rising cost of living, inflation, and the depressed economy continue to play a negative role in terms of research funding opportunities. But through partnerships, we are hopeful that we'll be able to reach our targets in this regard. As I come to a close, colleagues, on the innovation front, I do want to note the work that is being done in the Technopreneurship Center. I was privileged to attend one of their hackathons, and this was dedicated at looking at various elements of our processes and how those can be digitized. And under the leadership of our Vice Deans, I believe something great will come out of that exercise. Highlights that we have seen, I won't list every of them, colleagues, just three that I thought I'll point out. We had an event where we honored Professor Mariana Mazzucato from the University College London. She came to receive the honorary doctorate. She's considered a leading thinker on the role of state in innovation and economic growth. And her research, her publications definitely point to this effort that she is making in the world. One of our departments, in partnership with Thai Vision Media and SABC Education, has provided financial literacy workshops that are intended to improve the manner in which our communities handle and deal with their finances. We also had the privilege to host the governor of the Reserve Bank, Mr. Lesetja Kganyago, who delivered an address on the state of our economy and that of the world. As I prepare to sit down, it is clear to us, ladies and gentlemen, professors, that whatever we may think of achieving, we cannot do it alone. A collaborative effort between the university, structures, industry, and the public sector will play a key role in defining the kind of success that we can achieve in the near future. Here I want to highlight the discussions that are currently ongoing with one of our professors of practice, Dr. Pearson Joseph, who has come to us to offer what him and his organization can explore with the university or with the College of Business and Economics. And in that regard, I just want to put this or express our gratitude for such, because at times we invite our professors of practice to come to be with us and many other stakeholders, and there's always a gap or a question, what can we do to assist the college, the university? And this is a very open question, and the response to it, it's within what each individual can offer us. So we really appreciate those, and I do want to encourage our colleagues that in the times, challenging times that we're in as the country, as the world, where people don't know what to do, that we use our expertise to tell the world how to navigate through these times. In our college, we have various disciplines that are represented, and I'm appealing and encouraging our colleagues here to be out there writing opinion pieces, handling media interactions around the areas that they have expertise on. And in that way, we'll be able to play a role in societal impact together with many other initiatives that we will be engaging in. And that is my introductory remarks, colleagues, to this great occasion of meeting the senior academics and our professors of practice of the College of Business and Economics. And as I now hand over to our guest speaker, Dr. Andre Vermeulen. Did I pronounce that correctly? 100%. Thank you. I'll just go through a quick introduction of our guest speaker, but I want to highlight, colleagues, that Dr. Vermeulen will be speaking about neuroagility, neuroscience of learning, and performance improvement, which is something that I believe all of us will benefit from. All of us always desire to do better than we did yesterday. Dr. Vermeulen is a founding member and the CEO of Neurolink, a boutique consultancy specializing in the neuroscience of workplace learning, brain-based learning and development, which has evolved into neuroagility, has been his interest and passion for over 27 years. Dr. Vermeulen has keynoted numerous prestigious international conferences on neuroscience-related topics in multiple countries. His unique NAP trademark, brain profile assessments, and learning solutions help businesses drive performance forward, create agile organizations, and obtain extraordinary business results. He is the architect, developer, and owner of the entrepreneurial neuroscience business partnering system of Neurolink, which focuses business opportunities for hundreds of business entrepreneurs worldwide and adds value to thousands of people's lives. Dr. Vermeulen has been included and recognized as an honored member in Stanford Who's Who Black Book due to his outstanding professional career. Golden Key International has also honored him as an honorary member and a keynote speaker. Dr. Vermeulen has routinely displayed the passion, vision, and dedication necessary to be considered among the best in the neuroscience of learning and development industry. Welcome, Dr. Vermeulen, and we look forward to your engagement.
Thank you, Professor Lungile, much appreciated. Thank you. Ladies and gents, it's indeed a privilege for me to share my passion with you today. And that is exactly what we see there is the neuroscience of learning. Sorry, I just want to, there we go. That is our topic. Now, in the first place, people, the first question I normally get is, why are we talking about neuroscience in the world of business? And what we have to understand, neuroscience is not just about pathology and medicine. Neuroscience, as psychology and other sciences, psychology has a development stream, the psychometrists, and the therapists. In neuroscience, we have the medical people, the pathologists, but we also have a development stream as well as assessments. But that's the part that people don't really know much of. But if we talk about neuroscience, a simple example, if you look at most water bottles, you will see that they are colored blue or green. Why? Because when you see the colors blue and green, your brain produces 11 neurotransmitters that strengthens the immune system, increases the speed of electrical transmission, and literally people look more favorably on the colored plastic than the white plastic. Neuroscience is everywhere because at the end of the day, everything is about your perception and what happens in your brain. And therefore, it is a time where we have to think a lot about how are we finding ways of working and thinking and learning faster, smarter, and easier. And that's exactly what I want to talk about with you today. On the one hand, I've been in business for, 31 years now, where I help my clients solve development problems, people problems. I help them solve their problems. But what we do is we use neuroscience. Why neuroscience? Because neuroscience is an inclusive science, regardless of race and religion and gender and beliefs and whatever else it is that makes us different. What makes us the same is we all have a brain that is pink and that works exactly the same. So when we follow neuroscience approaches, it is an inclusive approach. If you look at Emirates Bank, they've got 111 different cultures in one company. If you want to develop leaders and you follow a cultural perspective, you need to roll out 111 different leadership programs that are culturally based. It's not going to be possible. So if any global practice where we talk about performance improvement, learning improvement, people improvement, you've got to have an inclusive approach. And that's what neuroscience offers us. Because neuroscience helps us separate fact from fiction. For instance, all of you have heard, that story of we only use 10% of our brain, which is absolute nonsense. But it's been around for decades. And people still talk about it as if it's a fact. So we have to align our practices with science. And one of those sciences, especially when it comes to people, are the neuroscience. When I started working here, so many times I have received feedback from the hands who pay me, which were mostly the CEOs of business, CFOs. They are chartered accountants or engineers and people along those lines. They work with exact sciences, numbers, chemistry, physics, mechanics. But so many times when I started working in the world of business, whenever I say that I have a people background, then, it's of secondary importance because the human sciences are not exact sciences, they say. And I always thought about it and say, well, there has to be a better way. And the better way is when you follow a neuroscience approach. When you link behavior and development to chemistry and genetics and physics and neurophysiology, you have to be accurate. Your learning practices, your people practices have to be accurate. And that's why I'm going to talk a little bit about a construct called neuroagility. Now, one of the other roles that I do play also, I'm involved in the neuroscience research group of the University of Pretoria, and my function there is very simple. How can we translate neuroscience into something that the world of business and education can use to improve performance, to drive business results, and so forth? So, neuroscience has got tremendous application value. But very often people are put off by its weird names and the fact that they think it's pathology. Pathology does not fit into business. Development of neuroscience, the applications of neuroscience is crucial to business. In fact, many of you will be very aware that, for instance, neuromarketing and neuroeconomics are very powerful constructs in the world. And that there are huge bodies organizing neuromarketing conferences and papers and research across the world. So it influences every aspect of our world. Because the brain is the core of who and what we are and what we do. Now, if we look at context, We live in a world when the fourth industrial revolution started, they spoke about disruptive change, and many of you are very familiar with the acronym of a VUCA world. And a VUCA world, they said that things are now so disruptive that things are volatile, uncertain, complex, and also ambiguous. And then COVID happened, and our world changed dramatically. And now there's many people still talk about VUCA, but others have started to look at it and say, but it's now a Barney world. A Barney world that says that our world is now brittle, people are anxious, and even when people make business decisions, investment decisions, it comes from a place of anxiousness. It's a world that is non-linear, and it's a world that is incomprehensible. Now, it's essential to always understand the context of the world in which we live, because when things change, it will also impact how we think about business. When things change, we need to realign our behavior, our skills, and our attitudes to what is going to be required to not just survive, but to thrive in times of uncertainty. And therefore, that's why what I want to talk to you a little bit. If this is the context of the world, change means we are going to have to modify, things are becoming different, and we have to modify our behavior. So we need to adapt. And the people who can adapt are those who is going to thrive. Now, there are various institutions with different types of research and statistics. But if we look more or less, I'm also involved with the Association for Talent Development, which is the biggest talent development organism in the world. And for them, I do a lot of work in creating awareness in the world of business about the value of neuroscience. But they spend large volumes of money on research to determine what are the tendencies for the future, and then also what is the workplace of the future going to look like, what skills will be required, and also how are we going to have to develop talent to ensure that we are going to have people who's going to be relevant in this world. Now, research suggests to us that and this has been a few years ago, but within the next few years, let's say about 8 to 10 years, about 84 million people in the globe will lose their jobs. And who are those people going to be? Those you know already that do repetitive work. If you do something that a computer can do, you're going to lose your job in time to come. It is just how it's going to be. Because computers do it faster, they have a better memory, and they aspire to zero defect. Now, when you do those things, already it improves business significantly. But here's the upside. People who can adapt AI and all its implications will create about 92 million jobs in the next 10 years. If we have relevant skills, and if we continuously reskill and upskill, and we keep ourselves relevant. So the good news is we have nothing to fear from the future if we continuously learn and sharpen the saw. We don't have to. In fact, I believe the future can be a place like we've never experienced. But for those who resist change and who are not change agile, they're going to stay behind. So if we look, therefore, also at when people go through change, the human condition, regardless of your culture or your gender or your age, when you go through change, you go through a whole cycle. And there are many stages, many stations that you are going to have to stop at when you go through change. Most of you are very familiar with this. But eventually, if we want to get to the right side of the change cycle, where we are on the upside, where we are riding the wave of constructive change, it means that we should not resist change, but rather work through these stages and get to places where we comply. In terms of comply with what is going to be necessary for the world, what skills level, what attitudes, and so forth is going to be required. Where we get to working with the change and having sufficient skills to move through the change and actually still thrive. That is the idea. Now, if we look at the human skills needed, a survey done amongst the top 500 CEOs, the top 500 companies in the world, when they asked them, what do you say are the top skills needed for today and tomorrow? These are the skills that they mentioned. And here's the interesting thing, just look at that. Communication, problem solving has been there for decades. But motivating others, look at those skills, it's human skills. When I started working, we called it soft skills. Yeah, you know, if you don't know what to do and you don't have you have got a few bucks over in your budget, we'll quickly do some human skills training. As if that's not important. Now, the World Economic Forum now tells us something different. Captains of industry are dictating to us what is going to be necessary for the future of work. And that's what they're saying. This is not Andre Vermeulen's subjective opinion. So, World Economic Forum, that's what they say is going to be needed for the future. Look at them. Just numbers 7 and 8 are IT skills. But in the bigger picture, what we have to understand, your vocational skills is always going to be important. It's going to open the gate for you to land a job, but it's not going to land a job for you. But it will open the gate. But then you need proof of performance in prior jobs. But then you need experience. But with that, you will also need relevant IT skill sets for the industry that you are in. My youngest son is an engineer, and if I look at his studies, the IT skill sets that goes with studying engineering is very unique and is very different from what I, for instance, will need in my type of business. IT is an accelerator of what we do. And therefore, we need to be able to accelerate what we do with technology, which means IT skills it's a non-negotiable. It's as important as your vocational skills. But look at those 10 skills. 8 of them are human skills. Now, we've also looked at, I unfortunately don't have that here, but we've looked at research about new job entries. In other words, people who finished studying, students at university. In the United States, 49% of the students who finish university and they land their first job, within 18 months, 49% of them lose their jobs. Let's say half of them lose their jobs. Research shows if you ask why did they lose their jobs, 89% of them lost their jobs because of bad attitude, the human component. Only 11% lack of technical ability, job skills, know how to do my job. So this tells us there's been a massive shift since the Fourth Industrial Revolution, that the human skills have also become very important, not just the technical skills. And I'm not saying prioritizing one, I'm saying the human skills have now moved up to that level where it's going to be very short-sighted of any person to think that the human skills is not, it's of secondary importance. It is as essential as it is to have vocational qualifications. Not my opinion. This is what research tells us about what's going to be needed for the future. Now, just an interesting thing in the United States, but what happens there is eventually going to influence us and the rest of the world. Within the next 10 years, entrepreneurial skills, I'm talking to economics people, you'll know this better than I do. But within the next 10 years, entrepreneurial ability will be half of the business sector, where you are going to have a time where you have super jobs, where a huge company has a handful of people, and the rest of the jobs are contracted to people with highly specialized skills. Businesses that sell their skill sets in order to do whatever it is that they do. Entrepreneurial skills will be essential in the future, where you develop a very sought after skill set, and it's not one or two skills, but a combination of IT, vocational, entrepreneurial, and human skills. But I want to start quickly, just going back just to that slide there. When we look at learning new skills, that is going to be required to be employable, to be competitive for the future. We say skills are important. Now, I want to use an analogy. If you look at a ballet dancer, for this ballet dancer to execute her skills with beauty and precision, she don't just need to develop her skills and practice her skills. She also needs to improve her fitness and her flexibility. Because without fitness and flexibility, she cannot execute her skills with beauty, ease, and precision like she is supposed to. That analogy is applicable to the employee of the future. Meaning with that, now more than ever, we need to develop brain fitness and also cognitive flexibility in order to be able to absorb information fast and easy and to execute our skills levels with precision. So, we got to ask ourselves, how brain fit am I? How cognitively flexible am I? So, we'll get to that, and that's what the construct of neuroagility is all about. Neuroagility, let me not jump the gun. The point that I first want to make, let me just finish this. So, everywhere in the world, where we talk about competition, competitive businesses, there's a war on talent. And this war on talent is simply this competition amongst organizations to attract, retain, and develop the most skilled and capable employees. When I lived in the United States, I worked for a company where a whole team, a whole division was bought over. IT company in medical analytics. They headhunted not one person, the whole department. The whole department. Why? Because that, specifically this group, the IT guys in that department had difficulty for a long time to start making a profit. And then they got an IT guy, manager, who's really a good leader in the first place, not just a good operator. But his leadership skills, his IT and his management skills, and then IT skill sets, made them starting to make a profit, and they then substantially just capitalized on that. And IBM checked this whole story out. They even budgeted for the lawsuit that will follow when they headhunt, a whole section. And that was part of it. But if you take the mojo of that team, what they can do, and what IBM projected they can do for their business, they decided we'll buy them all. Not just the high performers in the group, we take the whole team. So the point that I want to make when we look at this, is a team like that that's sought after, that people want to buy. That team is a team where the people, in the first place, continuously learn and reskill. Okay, I'll use this. Sorry. So where this team continuously reskill, if we talk about reskilling, ladies and gents, 3 things. It's known as professional recycling. We've got to make sure my skills stay relevant for what is required now. The technology I use is relevant for what is required now. But then also to train employees to adapt. This leader that I'm talking about that ran this team, I worked a lot with him. And he is one who is big up for saying, we are going to retrain, reskill. They will learn, and those who can't fit in is going to have to go. But the beauty of it is the team started all synergizing. And the powerful thing in the world of business management studies, we will know that there's been different focuses over various years. First, we spoke about the company, and then we said it's the CEO who's the game changer. And then people started saying, no, but it's the people. And then people said, no, but it's the right people. But management thinking at the moment is high-performing, agile teams are the secret ingredient for organizational success. If you get a team of 6 to 8 people, but they do the job of 24 people, or get the results of previously 24 people, we're talking about a really high-performing, agile team. You can get your teams to function on that level. We talk about running a healthy and a prosperous business. To be able to move people to that level, reskilling is going to be essential. But with reskilling also means to continuously learn new skills to do my job. And to be proactive, if I see that my job position is going to change, to start acquiring those skills, not when I should have done it, but before the time, so to stay relevant and current. But then also looking at this upskilling, literally to make sure that you continuously keep on learning new skills, that is going to help you be a better version of yourself. Continuously honing your skill sets, being more productive, more effective, and so forth. These are the essential things, and I have seen in action how a good leader manages to create a team that is high-performing and agile and who makes a lot of money for their business because of understanding what we are talking about here. Now, Alvin Toffler, I love this statement. The illiterate of the 21st century is not going to be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn. And I love this one, unlearn. When your skill sets are irrelevant, let it go. And don't hang on to it. And don't try to keep it current. And then relearn the new things that is going to replace it. Now, we look at this. Let's understand the science of learning. At this moment, you are sitting here and learning, but you learn more behind your desk, and when you do research, and when you teach, and whenever it is what you do, you continuously keep on learning. Now, you will see that lifelong learning is going to be one of the things that is not negotiable anymore. For people who want to have a fulfilled career, it means you're going to, depending on the industry that you are in, even if you stay employed in that industry, in time to come, you will most probably between 13 to 17 times change what you do. Now, I'm not just talking about being promoted. I'm talking about things as weird as an engineer starting up in China, and he even heads up HR as well. Things like that. I'm doing stuff I've never actually even been qualified vocational skills-wise to do. But I'm the new business boss who's got to establish a new business in China, and I'm first there, and then I start developing the team. And I need to break new ground. Now the point is, so continuous learning is going to become your and my competitive advantage. We have nothing to fear from AI if we stay current and relevant. I just want to quickly talk about a principle in neuroscience which we refer to as neuroplasticity. And neuroplasticity is literally the science of learning. It is as simple as that. The good news is your brain can at any time rewire itself if you know how to and if you use the ability of your brain. Inside the white and gray matters of your brain, you have brain cells. At this moment, those brain cells are transmitting messages from one brain cell to another. And if you look at this, there are two things happening in your brain at this moment. In the first place, there are biochemical reactions taking place. So this means if you're happy, or you're positive, or you laugh, it means you produce a neurotransmitter that transmits messages from one brain cell to another. Now that's an essential fuel for you to literally think. If you think and if you learn, it means messages are constantly transmitted in your brain. And the better you do that, the more effectively, the easier, the faster, and more effectively you will learn. So there are biochemical changes taking place in your brain at this moment as we speak. But then, as we speak, your brain cells are growing things called dendrites. Just like a tree have roots, your brain cells have these dendrites. Now, those dendrites are these things, if you look at this picture on the right-hand side, you will see between the brain cells, there's these root-like things. Those are the dendrites. Now, whenever you learn, literally, what happens biologically, you grow more dendrites, which means you make more connections. So at this moment, if you are really learning, you will be making new connections, new neural networks and pathways all the time. So when people learn, when they work, when they think, when they operate, you form neural networks. And you are the result of those networks. So if you learn new skills, it means a new neural network has been established inside the white and gray matters of your brain. But now you need to reinforce those networks for them to become permanent. If they become permanent, it means now that skill or that attitude that you have learned have now become automatic. Okay, so this is what the process looks like that I've been talking about. What you see there is a brain cell, and then that little light is an electrical message that is transmitted, and at the end you will see there are chemicals necessary between your brain cells that will carry over the electrical impulse from one side to the other. So there you see your brain cells, the electrical messages. There it goes now to the dendrite of another brain cell. But a close-up look of it, you will see there are chemicals, and those chemicals are responsible for transmitting messages. Now, if this process works well, you will be able to learn whatever challenge you face, whatever you have to learn, you'll be able to do it. Everyone's brain can do it. If we follow the right processes and if we follow the right principles. Now, when we look at those chemical changes, there are two groups of chemicals. I'm not going to bore you with the weird names, but you get a group of chemicals in your brain that are called inhibitors. And inhibiting chemicals are those chemicals with the likelihood that it will either slow down, block, or hinder communication between cells. In other words, There you can see. If a person experiences stress, they will produce a chemical called cortisol. The cortisol is an inhibiting chemical, which means it slows down or even blocks depending on how much cortisol you have released. But that same chemical also weakens your immune system, drains your energy, and will make you sick. So if you have a continued stressful life, you are an accident waiting to happen. You can't run on this fuel. Medium to long term, this fuel will make you sick, and eventually it may even destroy your health. So the point that I want to make, a negative mindset, negative emotions, anger, fear, hatred, frustration, irritation. Just think for a moment, how do those emotions make you feel? What is an emotion? Is when you feel the chemical. And when you feel bad, it's the way that these emotions communicate with you, telling you these chemicals that you are experiencing now is not conducive for health and for performance. This is not good for me. So the point is, when we have people who are habitual negative thinkers, pessimists, people with lots of intense negative emotional trauma and problems, when I'm stressed, when I'm continuously tired, this is what's going to happen. I refer to this as bad fuel. Because you run on this fuel most of your life, this fuel eventually will take its toll on your energy, your immune system, your health, your lifespan, and so forth. But here's the good news. These neurotransmitters, they are chemicals with an excitatory effect. It means these chemicals transmit messages from one cell to another. They are the good chemicals. I refer to them as good fuel. And they have funny names like serotonin and endorphins and oxytocin and whatever. Forget about the names. When you run on chemicals that are good-feeling chemicals, that strengthens your energy, strengthens your immune system, helps you to be effective, productive, and it transmits messages at optimum level. This is where you think, learn, and process information fast, easy, and are at your most flexible level. So we need to find our workforce and ourselves to function on a level where we produce more good fuel than bad fuel. Negative thoughts, negative emotions is part of the human condition. It's not a problem to have them. What we are saying is don't be stuck there. You need to be stuck more on this scenario in order to be employable and the best version of yourself. There's the neuroscience of learning. You can manage this. You're going to help yourself be competitive, effective, productive, and you'll be able to learn whatever a disruptive world is going to require of you. Now, we go back to that change cycle. When you face those emotions in red, biochemically, that's what you're doing to yourself. But if you manage to move yourself to the right side, where you comply, you learn the skills, you adapt, you are change agile, you accept change as an accelerator of your career, opportunities to be a better version of yourself. When we make those mindset shifts, that's when we become better versions of ourselves. So, when it comes to the wiring part, at this moment, as you are sitting here and listening to me, your brain cells are growing those dendrites. These dendrites are connecting with others and they're forming a neural pathway. When these pathways are sufficiently reinforced, they become permanent. And then when they become permanent, it will influence your behavior. So, if we've learned skills or attitudes in the past that have become irrelevant, we need to stop reinforcing them. We need to unlearn. We need to rewire, replace those pathways with new skill sets and new attitudes that is going to help us be relevant. This is the good news. Your brain neuroplasticity empowers you to not be a victim of the future and its demands, but to be victorious of that future and its demands. If you understand how this process works and you continuously keep on reinforcing the right things, learning the right skills, unlearning what is irrelevant, let it go, and constantly reskill. Now, just a simple example, what I want you to do, just want to challenge you. There's an illustration of a simple, we call it a brain agility exercise. You're going to have to think to do the movement activity. Just for a moment, try and do this with the instructor, please. You can all just try and do that. Okay, thank you. Whether you got it right or not, point is, I just wanted you to experience for a moment, if we talk about having a neuro-agile brain that is fit and flexible, then you can learn new skills fast, easy. And in this moment, I'm speaking to a very highly qualified audience, highly qualified people. And all of us have to think what we must do when we do this exercise. And that's the point, is we have to continuously try and get our brain to keep it agile and to learn new skills all the time, hone our skills levels. So, if we talk about neuroagility, neuroagility is a construct that means, neuro means nerves and brain cells. Agility has three keywords. If we talk about agile organizations, and this is something that is crucial, in the US, everywhere in the first world, but I'm sure in South Africa, it is like that as well. There's a lot of talk about agile organizations, agile IT, agile HR. I hear concepts like agile emotional agility. I hear about leadership agility. Now, what does that word agility mean? It shouldn't be the flavor of the month. It means in times of change, you need to be agile so that you can adapt to change fast, easy, and flexible. That's what it's all. So your brain is going to be the instrument that provides you with change agility. That's going to help you if your brain is fit. We have to remember, when we are born, we have a brain. It doesn't mean you can walk. You have to learn the skill. Just because you have a brain and you have great qualifications does not mean necessarily that you are fit at the moment or flexible. A while ago, one of my friends was a professor at a university and one of the top 3 experts in the world in his field of expertise. But he was close to retirement, and we did a neuroagility profile of him. And when it came to his brain agility exercises, he only got 65%. And I could see that he was wondering about this. I mean, this does not really sit well with me. And I said to him, Charles, so tell me, when last have you done a drive overseas where you do all these things and sort of, impress the world with your skills and research and things? 3 years ago. He's 8 months away from retirement. He started to give over his job responsibilities to others. And I said to him, Charles, let's be honest. Have you taken off your foot off the accelerator? He said to me, Andre, of course I did. You know I did. I said, well, there you go. Your brain is a progressive organ. It either gets better or it gets worse, but it never stays the same. So the moment, let's say you get these great qualifications, this great position, you are the person of the moment. But you take your foot off the accelerator, you will lose it if you don't use it. Golden brain rule. So you get either better or you get worse, but you never stay the same. Your brain agility, your sharpness, your intelligence level never stays the same. You can improve it, or you can choose to take your foot off the accelerator. So that's going to be our challenge, is to continuously reskill and upskill. So an agile brain literally means a brain that is fast, focused, and flexible. It's going to become the greatest asset that you are ever going to have is your brain. Without that, you're nothing. But to just have a brain, I always say to the students, if I work with them, I say to them, there's a job, 300 applicants. They all have brains. So what makes you special? Nothing. But if your brain fit, you have increased cognitive flexible levels, you are more neuroagile. You have optimized your intelligence preferences. Now we're talking about becoming competitive. You need to prove that you have abilities that your competitors don't have. You need to sell yourself, but it's not just talking. It's about really knowing and having the skill that you can prove it. So, yes, Renel, should we finish? Okay. So the point is, just very quickly, it's not about pathology or anything else. Sometimes I come across people, I have the opportunity of very often interacting with really great minds of the world. But then also among them you get the great narcissists and also the inflated egos sometimes that goes with it. And because I'm an inflated ego now, I think I must be neuroagile. Look at how much wealth I have. It doesn't mean that your money, your bank status makes you neuroagile. It's something that you have to work on. The point that I want to make here is neuroagility says that our brain has the ability. In the olden days, we said that you have a brain, it can be logical on the one hand, creative on the other hand. What we're saying, neuroagility says you need to be analytical and creative, expressive and receptive, depending on what a new, fast-changing situation requires of you in that moment. So it's not the one or the other, but it's the one and the other at the same time. If you look, and I want to then conclude my session by simply saying, if you work for a place like Amazon now, and you look at what they're looking for new candidates, especially when you look from supervisors and upwards, what are they looking for? Yes, submit your vocational skills, give us proof of performance in your prior job, what is your experience, all cool. And now let's say I've got 4 candidates. Now I need to make a decision. Who's going to be my best candidate? Bottom line, who is the most agile? Because this guy is going to have to change job positions 13 to 17 times. From the stuff that he really loves in the beginning to new stuff that has not been done. 80% of you, I've got 2 little grandsons. They have an 80% chance of doing a job that does not exist at the moment. It's going to catch up with you in your career as well. And therefore, make sure, if you have this agile brain, ladies and gents, you will stay a sought after commodity that the world needs. And if you can do that for those that you are responsible for, your colleagues, your students, your children, excuse me, but you can help them literally hone their brain power skills. You are investing in their competitiveness, their employability, but also their future success. So the future may look challenging, but it's going to be a glorious place for those who are willing to learn the new skills and to flex a mental muscle. They will not just survive, they will thrive. And may you and your people that you are responsible for, may you be those people. I think our country so much needed. I hear wonderful words of success already, and to stay an institution of excellence in a sea of mediocrity, you're going to have to do things that other institutions don't do. You need to sometimes break the ground that others are not willing to break. May UJ be that place and this department be that place. You've been wonderful attendance. I appreciate it. Participants, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Van Meulen, for that wonderful session. You really, I can already feel some transmission of good vibes happening in my mind already. I think I'm in a better mood than I came. so well done on that. But the exercise that you made us do, I saw someone sitting next to me. I think, I don't know if it was intentional, but if he had given him a gun, he would have shot me because he kept on pointing one direction. Yes. No, thank you so much. We really appreciate the insights that you have provided. And I wish many of our colleagues could have been here to listen to you. So thank you so much. We really appreciate. And this is our token of appreciation to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies and gents. Thank you.
Yes, because this is my last opportunity on the program, colleagues, I also just want to thank you all. You will be thanked, and also just thank Dr. Ronell and her team for organizing these sessions. They've really been wonderful. I appreciate your presence here. You are directing the program, so lead us. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Appreciate. We will take photographs afterwards, if that's okay with everybody. I would like to call on Prof. Chetty, who will manage the question and answer session for us. We already gave him 3 questions that came in from our virtual attendees. Prof. Chetty, the floor is yours, and I do have a microphone here for you.
Agility is such that sometimes you take it too far. When Ronell suddenly asked me to facilitate the question and answers, my cortisol levels went down. But then I started to look around and I saw all the blue. And then the dopamine and serotonin started to kick in.
This professor, he learned everything.
As Prof. Lungile said, as you were speaking and we learned this new information, I could also feel those neurotransmitters starting to fire again, like spark plugs, and my engine started to rev up again. Yeah. No, thank you very much. We had a teaching and learning workshop this morning, and the theme of that workshop was the future of teaching and learning amidst all this change that is taking place. And, AI, generative technology, data analytics moving in leaps and bounds, and all kinds of technology around teaching and learning, and how do we keep afloat, and the very terms that you used actually crossed my mind then. And I find that many of us tend to be in survival mode. And how do we switch from the survival mode, from surviving to thriving? And I imagined us being on the beach. I am no surfer, you can look at me. I don't surf. I don't have the physique to surf. But can you imagine yourself on the beach and you have the surfboard and you are surfing. And each wave is coming and you have to negotiate those waves, right? And those are waves of change. And sometimes you have to go through those tunnels. I don't know if I'm even using the right terms. And sometimes you try to ride the crest of the waves. How do you keep that? If you are in survival mode, you're going to allow yourself to be swamped. And you're eventually going to go. You have to make that switch from survival to one of thriving, taking advantage, and to be there on the crest and to surf. I don't know. Only we are in control of where we will be amidst all this change. Anyway, get to the business. I'm here to facilitate questions. I have 3 questions. Would you like me to take the online questions first?
And
Or-
let's have some audience, 1 or 2, and then
then
we
we'll
can
do the
do
online.
online.
Madam.
Dr. Vermeulen, thank you for the talk, and I cannot more agree with you. Everything. Learn, unlearn, relearn, get paths in your brain, everything. But if I think of a typical lecturer's job, it's teaching, supervision, research. Teaching is with students. Research is one that you can do kind of on your own, but supervision is also with students. Now, the type of students we have nowadays, the University of Johannesburg, they need care. They're not UCT students, but they've got abilities, and we want to get that out of them. But it takes one hell of an effort of a lecturer to get the pass right. To supervise a student, we've got 2 kinds of students. Those that really can't write, but they want to do a master's. You have to help them. And then the others can write, but they've got such a demanding job that they don't have time to do the master's. So 2 of these 3 things are kind of out of our hands to handle. How do you suggest do we get more agile when we are working with students? And it's not just us performing and we can do things better, learn more, excel or learn more that, but we are limited by the people in front of us, those that we work with.
Can we
Thanks.
take maybe another 2 questions? And let's do 3 at a time, right? If there are any other questions, and then we'll hand over to Dr. Vermeulen. Are there any other questions?
I've got one more.
Okay.
But let's first.
Let's just see if there are any others. Peter? Professor Bauer?
Thanks, Prof. I'm going to steal this one. My question again is the whole issue around the ChatGPT and the future of ChatGPT and how that's affecting careers going forward. Is there ChatGPT? That's
the
a whole
AI chatbot.
yes. Yeah. Just your perceptions going forward and how that's going to have an impact. Thank you.
Can we have a 3rd question? There's one here.
So thank you very much, and I can also not agree more. But what are some of the techniques? You know, we know exercise plays a role. We know medication plays a role, vitamins, all of there's a whole host of things you can do. So unfortunately, I'm a bit of a more data guy. So can you give me a plan on how to improve my brain?
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. And I am so impressed, Prof. Chetty, with you took this lecture in like a sponge and remembered everything as we discussed. So I know I'm working with smart people here today. Thank you also for asking smart questions. Questions are the tools with which we discover the truth. So we need to ask them as often as possible. I think in terms of, in the first place, for yourself as a lecturer, I think it is important to make yourself a priority. The most powerful form of learning is imitative learning. Excuse me. So people look at your example and they will follow suit if you are an inspirational example. And therefore, if you can show them what neuroagility is, it gives people hope and inspires them to say, but maybe I can also be someone like you one day. And I think, how do we become those people? When we talk about neuroagility, it's a framework of at least 13 elements of primary importance. Now, it stands on 2 legs. The one leg is all about developing your cognitive flexibility. Now, cognitive flexibility means I utilize the 2 hemispheres of the brain simultaneously, which means I'm analytical and creative, not analytical or creative, but the one and the other. So I think when it comes to the cognitive flexible framework, as a lecturer, always try to be as inclusive as you can, including the time for creativity, time for analysis, time for expression, time for reflection, time for logic, and time for innovation, time for emotion, time for reason, time in terms of how you bring across and interact with people. You've got to make sure your message is visual, it is auditory, and kinesthetic. Kinesthetic means interactive. We've got to get involved. We've got to get a feel for this thing that you are teaching me here. I don't just need to know this, I need to feel it. Then also, I think what one can do is often when you bring in the fun in your classroom, just make your classroom good, your students keep their curiosity, be fun. In other words, let them laugh. The moment that people laugh, two things happen. Many of you are sitting with crossed legs, and you're sitting with crossed legs because your brain goes into alpha state. It's a state of where your brain can absorb more information. When people feel comfortable, or they laugh, or they have fun, immediately they can take in more information. But then when they laugh and they produce more of those endorphins, it facilitates the flow of electrical transmission. You will always find that when students love you, they love your class. When they love you and your class, their marks normally are better. It's not just with school children. It is so also in the tertiary world as such. So think about making it interactive, fun, enjoyable, yet relevant the whole time. The vehicle on which learning will happen is producing those neurotransmitters. And if you can just do simple things, sometimes work in, and for that I can gladly refer you or send you links. I can send it to Rinal, she can send it to you. But there are links where you can, these exercises, we have many of them. And you can download them for free and use it in your lecture. If you see that they're starting to dim and bright, give them a bit of a brain fitness exercise and stuff like that. That's going to help. So there are 7 elements of cognitive flexibility. Lateral, relative lateral flexibility. That's the left and right hemispheres. But then there's also the expressive and receptive. The front parts of your brain is that what makes you expressive. I talk, debate, argue, discuss. In your lecture, there has to be time for the student to interact with you, wherever possible, or time to say something. Think, I know it's not always ideal, but we need to think, because remember, when a student can verbalize what they're thinking about or learning, they reinforce that again. They seal the deal with learning. Sometimes if you allow them to explain it to you, they learn more. And things like that. But then the backside of the brain is that part of the brain where you need time for reflection. You've got to think, reflect, and solve some problems. You've got to find ways to force them about thinking deeply about this principle that you are teaching them today and how they can apply it. But then, remember, their senses are the doors to their brain. So what they see, some are very visual. Others are very auditory, especially in a university like this. My research shows that most of your students coming to a university where they attend classes, about 70% of them have a very strong auditory preference. That's why they're here. Not doing it online. I want to chat to you, Prof. I want to hear what you say. I need to connect with the Prof in some way or the other. And that's quite challenging. It's a daunting task. But we got to try and be creative here. So visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. But then also, remember, all people are smart, but we are smart in many different ways. Einstein was smart in a science way. Nelson Mandela was smart in a people way, and in an intrapersonal and interpersonal way. But if you look at Gordon Ramsay, the chef, This guy is smart in a sensory way. So the more you can try and incorporate different perspectives of being smart, in other words, different perspectives on how you project this information to people, the more interesting it's going to be. So you're going to have to draw their curiosity. That's the one leg. The other leg is there are 6 drivers. We call them drivers that improve the ease and speed with which you transmit messages. They are things like physical exercise, the brain agility exercises. If you do a lecture and you want to quickly pop in one of these brain boosters, brain agility, do it. By all means, they'll love it. But then there are other things like stress coping is essential. When the students are too full of cortisol, they cannot extract the information that they put in their heads. That's why they sometimes, I can see the page on which the information is, but I cannot tell you what I know. I've got it here, but I can't get it out there. Or I see, but I don't hear. I look, but I don't see. I can see the book and the number on which the answer is, but I cannot recall that visual information. Or then also sometimes I hear, but I don't listen. When they get stressed in the class, they will see your mouth moving, but they will not be able to process the auditory impulses. So the more relaxed your class is, the easier the students can learn. In other words, simple things like breathing exercises. Actually, one has to actually give you a workshop because it's a whole day, and then you can give them all these tools. But breathing exercises, muscle relaxation exercises, and this is a thing that takes you a minute. But if you, just before you start your session and you get them all just in the zone, in alpha state, now you can transfer, you can then hit them with your information because their brain is going to be receptive. So stress coping, very important, immediate stress relief activities. But then the third thing is sleep. You produce these chemicals when you go into a state of deep, dreamless sleep for about 4.5 to 5 hours. But you should sleep about 7.5 to 8 hours a night. Plus, you should sleep deep enough also, not just long enough. So deep enough means 5 hours of deep, dreamless sleep, so you can generate and produce those chemicals again. And that's the problem of most people on your level. You don't sleep properly, your sleep patterns are disrupted, and you don't get that deep sleep. And that's when we start running on empty. So even for your students, they should, this thing of going right through the night, they set themselves up for failure like you can't believe. But okay, so sleeping patterns, much there to do, but get yourself in a sleeping discipline. Go to sleep a certain time, wake up a certain time.
We've answered 2 of the questions. We have his question. Do you want to repeat that?
Yeah. Sorry, Prof. I'm just going to throw it back again, and my apologies for actually my distorted question. As our dean mentioned, about media releases, and as you mentioned it, there was a critical media release arrives on the phone. Go figure. ChatGPT is influencing the way in which we are perceiving technology going into the future. There are many people out there that are very worried about the state and the future of their jobs. So we do talk about reskilling, we talk about upskilling, we talk about new skilling, but I'm really concerned about, do you think that ChatGPT is as much a risk to people's careers as what is actually going out there?
That's a difficult question, and I think it also depends on industry to industry. I think if you're in an industry where your job is to solve problems, like when you're a medical practitioner, you're always going to be in demand. Chemical engineers, They solve complex problems. They'll use technology, but AI is not that good at pattern recognition in terms of like the human brain. It is its weakness, but it's its strength to recognize patterns. And to sometimes see, for instance, out of nothing, create something new. For instance, what AI is not going to be good at. I think what I'm saying is simply compare apples with apples. The human mind and AI is not the same thing. It is two different organisms altogether. That AI has tremendous learning abilities and information assimilation abilities, large volumes, big memory, linear processing, fantastic. But human beings do often creative processing. All the new things that this world has been brought through creativity. Edison had a thought in his head, and it took him more than 10,000 experiments before he succeeded. But he invented from nothing the light bulb. Something that a body of distinguished scientific men who evaluated his invention said, his efforts are not worthy of our attention. Man does not need the light bulb. It shows you sometimes what true creativity, that others don't even get it. But here's the thing, although we cannot compete with AI in terms of linear processing, of memory storage, of, like the machine learning, how quickly you get to new implications, but it can innovate, but it cannot create so far. Okay. And what we need to know, that is the human ability. So develop that ability, your ability to solve problems, and your ability to be creative, to think outside of the box, to be original. When we do those things, there's definitely going to be a space for us where AI cannot interfere. That's my opinion.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vermeulen. I have some questions that we received from our online attendees. But before that, I just want to plant a thought in your head. It occurred to me, there's a lot of things, as you can say, we can be as smart as we can be. But the issue about attitude and mindset, where does that come from? And how do we get that to change if it is a strong inhibitor in our process going in learning? But before you answer that, let me give you the other questions. You may want to make a note of it, or I'll give you these here, you can keep them. The first set of questions relate to this notion of neuropreneurship. So it's a threefold question. It comes from Helen Aderemi Bejide, right? They want to know, or she wants to know, can neuropreneurship be considered as an offshoot of psychological or behavioral aspects of entrepreneurship? I'll give you all the questions. Then there's a second one to that. Do we have a clear-cut criteria and indicators of measurement or assessment? And the third one, what are the areas of research opportunities in neuropreneurship that can be explored? It's quite a mouthful, right? So that's the first one, dealing with neuropreneurship. So just keep that in mind. And the last question for today deals with personality and heredity and age on agility. What could be the influence, this comes from Prof. Wilfred Okpere. What could be the influence of personality, heredity, and age on agility? I know you answered this in your presentation. The brain doesn't stop learning, right? Consider the fact that most professors are aging. How can they be motivated to learn and unlearn, or unlearn and learn? Okay, so those are the set.
Okay, so this is a mouthful, and I must honestly say that when it comes to the human brain, there are no such thing as short questions or short answers, but I'm going to quickly try and keep it as short as possible. I think the question on attitude is everything. Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. When you have your attitude is like the software on the body's computer. If you have negative software, a negative mind produces a negative life. A positive mind produces a positive life. Negative mind can never produce positive life or positive results. So at the bottom of everything we do, we need to have this, they nowadays talk about growth mindset. This mindset that, yes, let's face reality with all its negatives, but we are going to look for solutions, and even if I don't have the solution yet, I will find it. That tenacity to constantly find new answers, but in a constructive way. Possibility thinking. Optimism. Optimists are people who have hope for the future. You know, when we put on the news and we hear about the economy, we feel depressed and we can very quickly drop that. Make the people around us also, we steal their hope by being pessimistic. Now, if my children look at me and I lose hope, then if my father loses hope, then what hope is there for me? The same way if my professor loses hope, what hope is there for me? So we've got to be positive. How do we do that? One, you've got to be accurately aware. What is the truth of how constructive-minded are you? Now, this doesn't mean you have to be perfect and always. But it means that most of the time you need to be a more positive person than negative person. But you've got to do a brutally accurate awareness of yourself. What is the truth? Go ask your wife and your children. How do you see me? Go ask my students. It's going to take some guts to face their responses. But we can learn something from it. 2, exercise the power of choice. You need to make a choice. For instance, as a young person, I grew up on the wrong side of town, didn't have a lot of confidence. People told me I'm white trash. The problem was I believed it. I had low self-esteem. Good news, you can change it. Acknowledge the truth about yourself, that there's something to change. Make a decision to start. I always say to people, inside of every person, there's a good and a bad wolf. Which one wins? The one you feed most. Feed the good wolf in you more than the bad wolf. Make sure that you capitalize on the constructive things about the value you have and who you are more than the opinions of other people. So make a choice to reinforce the positive in you more than the negative. And then 3, I think it's so important. Your brain works like a movie. There's a soundtrack and there are visuals. The soundtrack part, what does your soundtrack sound like? You've got to speak positive. You've got to think positive. Always say to students, can I download your soundtrack and play it to other people? And if they say no, then you know actually your soundtrack is not helping you. The other thing, can I download the videos in your brain and show it to everyone else? Will it inspire me? Or, oops, I can't show that to you. If I can't show it to you, then it's not really helping me. So say it, see it, and then respond in the best possible constructive ways. So when you say it, your ear hears it. It helps to trigger the right pictures and to respond. That's the one on attitude. When it comes to neuropreneurship, I'm not sure what that construct means. So I'm not going to be able to really explain what that is. If neuropreneurship means that you can create new businesses from the development implications of neuroscience, that's exactly what I do. And I tell you, it is a world that is exploding with new opportunities as there are new research abilities. One thing I do want to say, because you are business people, one of the things that I have found from the work that I did was we do a measurement where we look at how people are smart. And there are 11 different ways of how people are smart. One of them are creative intelligence, but there's another one, intrapersonal intelligence. It means self-intelligence. What amazed me, we did work for an Islamic bank where they have an entrepreneurial group of children that students, they fund, and they wanted us to say, let's measure who are the real entrepreneurs. What was amazing to discover, I always thought your entrepreneurships are going to be those people who really are creative. They identify a gap in the market and they do something. And it is relevant. But what stood out above anything else, your entrepreneurs have very strong intrapersonal competence. It means they are strong individuals. When no one else believes in me, I tell you what, I'm going to try it anyway. They have that strength and resilience to want to break new ground where others fear to tread. They are willing to go there. So I think that's the best answer. If I'm not sure. I think that's good enough. Okay. When it comes to measurement, yes, you can measure neuroagility. And this we can definitely do. Those 13 elements that I discussed, on the one leg are the neuroflexibility elements, 7 of them. On the other side, there are 6 drivers. If you then look at those things together, it shows you a measure eventually of the ease, speed, and flexibility with which people think, learn, and process information. And there's a direct link to improved neuroagility and improved performance. Are there opportunities for research? Absolutely so. This work that I'm discussing with you are being used at the University of Pretoria for postgraduate neurophysiology students, and they all do their studies have to do a project on the neuroagility. As such, we have masters and PhD people, and the world of neuroscience is exploding with new research, and which offers new opportunities. So absolutely something to consider. And when it comes to personality and things that are hereditary, if you look at yourself, you are the sum total of nature and nurture, or differently stated, genetics plus the impact of the environment. So there are certain genes that will influence who you are, and there are also the impact of the environment. You can be a logical thinker. If I'm very positive, I will pay attention to detail to really create something new or to innovate or to improve things. If I'm a logical thinker but I'm very negative, then I become a critical person who just criticizes others and, the whole time. So it depends what you do with what you have genetically. But the argument has been going since I've started studying, still goes on, which one weighs the most? And at the end of the day, half of who we are genetics, half of who we are is the environment. That's the way that we should be looking at it. So the good news is, when it comes to the construct of neuroagility, your genetics doesn't have much to do. Your genetics, what it will have something to do with are your preference, for instance, for analytical or creative, and that part. But here's the good news. With development, you become an analytical and creative person, not the one or the other, but one and the other. That's the power of the environment. And the environment says, if you put your mind to something, the sky is the limit. You can become whatever you choose to want to be. Your brain is powerful enough to do that. So, in a nutshell, that's my response. Thank you.
I think those are brilliant responses to the questions that were asked. If we had enough time, I know all your transmitters are firing at the moment and you would like to ask more questions, but unfortunately we have limited time, and I now hand over to Prof. Hosanna to make some closing remarks and to thank our guest speaker and to all of you as well. Thank all of you for being here.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to meet you, Dr. Vermeulen. Is it the same Neuralink associated with Elon Musk?
He is Neuralink, I am Neuralink, so I'm 30 years before you.
Oh, wow, okay. Because I wanted to ask you about the...
South African innovations.
Oh, yes, actually, yeah, that's quite impressive. Because I was looking at his brain implants, and I thought we were going to get each one, like Oprah, everyone get one.
Fortunately, not today.
Not one, okay. Now, I have a couple of questions, but before I do that, let me first say thank you so much for coming through. I think the area of neuroscience is definitely fascinating, and I think we know students who could do with a lot of help. So thanks also to the professors for coming through. I think it's nice to have a good turnout. I think well done on that. And thanks also to Ronel, Dr. Ronel, and Shazia. They do a lot of work in the background. Sometimes you don't really notice it. The UG library team, thank you. The visual studio. And for the rest of you, we would love for you to test your neurosenses on the food and finish it. And to wish you well. This is the last Professors Forum this year, is that correct? So enjoy the rest of the year and savor the taste there. Bless you, bye-bye.
The University of Johannesburg, the future reimagined.